purpose. Big Valley, if you're new to one of our meetings, I think it'd be kind of nice to get acclimated to what are we doing here. So I'm just going to go through the purpose statement that we have in our bylaws. I think that'll pretty much nail it for us. The purpose of the Big Valley Advisory Council is to increase the participation of Kelseyville area residents in the decision-making process that affects their community, their local area plan, and the Lake County General Plan. The Big Valley Board will serve as the official local community representative to work with the Lake County Board of Supervisors or other entities and agencies to provide grassroots input, direction, and guidance on issues related to the unincorporated area of the county defined by the Kelseyville Planning Area Map. Someday we'll have a large copy of that here. These issues include, but are not limited to, matters of public health, safety, welfare, public works, economic development, planning, and land use. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'll introduce or ask the board members to introduce themselves. My name is Rick White. I work for Canucti Realty. I'm an active member with the Kelseyville Business Association. I'm a member of the board of directors for the Lake County Economic Development. And what else am I? Oh, I'm a Toastmaster and our vice chair.
Hi everyone, my name is Sydney Giberson. I don't know how to follow that up. I'm not nearly as involved as Rick over here. In my career, I am a technical project manager. This is the only community board I serve on in Lake County, and I live here in the Big Valley area.
I'm Mark Lips, and we have the Right Choice Farm Stay and Catering.
I'm Arno Hubert. I've been living in Kelseyville since '07. I work from home as a localization project manager, and you might know me from Gregory Graham Wine's tasting room if you've been there in the past 12 years.
Okay, thank you very much. As you can see, we're kind of a mix of the community, and we are in need of another member, so that we're supposed to be a board of 5, and we also need a backup. So I think we're accepting applications tonight. We hope that somebody in this room will step up and join us and kind of keep the ball rolling for us. Okay, like I said, we have a pretty busy agenda here, so we've done our roll call now. We have, hopefully everyone's had a chance to browse through our meeting minutes. And when we do a vote up here, it's amongst our group, our board members, but we do solicit input from the community. That's kind of the purpose. So if you do have a copy of the meeting minutes and you see something you think is missing, chime in, let us know. But I will ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and seconded. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
I'm sorry. The minutes will be posted on the county's website tomorrow morning.
Okay. All right. Now we start out with a public comment portion of our meeting. We have a mic set up over here. You have 3 minutes to get up and address the council. Please make your comments as clear and concise as you can, because 3 minutes doesn't last very long. Anybody?
As a note, it's for anything not on the agenda already. There'll be time for each agenda item as well.
Hello, Big Valley. Margot Kambara. I bring good news from one of our former presenters, Jennifer Brennan, Energy Program Manager with Northern Rural Energy Network, NREN. As part of following up on a public suggestion to seek green/resiliency grant funding for the Kelseyville Senior Center's heat pump, Jennifer requested that a third-party administrator of PG&E's energy efficiency programs install Kelseyville Senior Center's new heat pump for free. The third-party administrator will also provide rebates for mini splits to be installed as part of this remodel. This example of public suggestion to grant dollar savings was made possible by county staffers. Terry Longsden, Chief Resiliency Officer, Lars Ewing, Director, Public Works, and Joe Cooper, Capital Projects Manager. Joe also presented to this group. It was Joe's presentation that prompted the suggestion of including a heat pump in Kelseyville Senior Center remodel. Meanwhile, Joe is working on a list of about 10 more county-owned buildings slated for a new heat pump, new heat pump water heaters to be installed before the end of the year. Early next year, NREN plans to launch its commercial program. NREN expects to assist additional government and privately owned buildings with energy efficiency upgrades. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. That's very good news. Anyone else? Not seeing any hands. I think we can move along. Okay, we have the report section of our meeting. We need to hear from our two District 5, District 4 supervisors, and I will call upon Jessica Pyska, if you think I saw her here.
Well, I want to thank all the county staff that's here tonight. I think you're most of the people in the room, but it's really great. That's one of the reasons we started this Municipal Advisory Council, so that the community can have a really direct relationship with staff and programming. So thanks for being here. I have some updates from Public Services. The Kelseyville Sidewalk Project is out to bid right now. The invitation for construction bid is posted now. Bids are due on the 23rd of October. And pending a successful bid and acceptable weather, we hope to construct it this school year. So that's great. We've been waiting a long time for this. We passed our budget a few weeks ago last month, and this was listed as one of the capital improvement items. In our budget, it's about $1 million project. We got $450,000 from Congressman Thompson. So that was a significant portion of the project, but it is still expensive, but we're happy to be working, pushing that project through. It is a really big priority for the safety of the kids that are walking along Konocti Road. And Senior Center construction is going to happen in the spring. Construction drawings and specifications are complete. The permits are ready to be issued. Securing CEQA and NEPA approvals. Those are required because of the grants that we got for the renovations. And anticipating a spring 26 construction. So for those that are new, it's about a $2 million renovation of this building, which is going to be great. The kitchen's going to be moved over there. We're going to have all new HVAC, ADA bathrooms, all kinds of things that are needed for this to be a really wonderful senior center and community center. Probably noticed all the chip seal is complete now. The striping was just finished. We did 36 miles this summer. A lot of that here in Big Valley. Gaddyline, Soda Bay, Live Oak, Coal Creek, and then quite a few miles in Lower Lake too. So we're very, very happy with our road crews who spent pretty much all of August and September working on that. And I have some flyers because we are developing recreation programming in our public services department. This has been a big push of the department over the last couple of years in collaboration with the Lake Rec Agency, which is a JPA with both the cities, to bring more programming to our community. So this is the Konocti Climb 5K. So you can sign up. It is November 8th. It's It's going to be on our Mount Canocte right here. If you're a runner, if you want to watch, if you want to hang out, I'm going to be there watching. I'm not a runner. But here's some flyers. Definitely sign up if you're interested. We really hope to bring a lot more programming. When I first came on the board, Lars, the director, said, we have parks and clogging. Clogging was our only recreation program. And so we have summer camp now, this, and a lot of other things. We are also going to be hiring a recreation coordinator to start building some of these programs in with our rec department. So I'll leave it here. Anyone's interested? And then I watched the video from last month. I wasn't able to come because I was at a conference and heard the discussion about the park with the sheriff. And I had heard that there was maybe thoughts of redesigning the park or maybe getting rid of the park, turning it into something else. And there's a really specific process for developing parks, changing parks, building parks. It's really community driven. It's not a decision that I will make or any county official. These come from a really intensive community visioning process. So we have been building a new park in Cobb for many years, and we've probably been working on the visioning for 5 years. So I just wanted to let you know that that's the process. If that is something that this committee wants to work on, we could invite Director Ewing to come back and kind of talk through that process. But because we have such a big renovation coming with this building, and there's going to be a lot of changes, it might be nice to just kind of, hear what our friends from Behavioral Health have to say, and see if the big changes kind of affect some of the things that people are complaining about here. So I just wanted to let you all know that there is a process for this, and it is definitely community-led and would be led by all of you. So any questions about those things? Okay.
Jessica, quick question regarding the senior center construction. Has there been any conversations about where this council will be held in the interim for when this is being constructed?
Do we have anyone from Senior Center here now? I don't think so. So the back area, the portable in the back is not part of the construction. So I think there's going to be some shifting around of programming. So I think that building may be available for use.
Sounds good.
Because we just didn't quite have enough funding to redo that. That's phase 2, but it will be a good place to keep programming and availability for use. But we do need to confirm that with both Lars and the Senior Center. Okay.
All right, thank you
Okay.
Supervisor Pyska. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Yeah, a couple things tonight. Good evening, council. First, Highland Springs Road between Big Valley and Highway 29. There's a bridge over there that right now has a temporary one-lane deck on it. We do get a lot of calls about that, but I wanted to let you know that the county's in the process of ordering the new deck materials, and then once they're received, we just need to coordinate with the asphalt plant for when they're doing a run of asphalt, and hopefully there'll be something where that's going on and we can start getting this replaced this fall. So that's being worked on if you get questions about it. Out at Lakeside County Park, they're doing an ADA ramp for the restrooms out there. So that's nearing completion. That's over near the pavilion area out there in the park. So hopefully that'll be done pretty soon. Next, Sonoma Power. That's been a topic that you've been presented here. Just wanted to try to give a brief synopsis, and I'll try to get it concisely stated with what's going on. So the offer that was in front of the 3 jurisdictions, that's the 2 cities in the county, was offering us to join the Sonoma Power to have that as a provider for people to have if they want to here in this county. Then there's also another piece where the county needed to make a commitment to join what's known as the GeoZone. So the first, after that offer, then we had a joint meeting with the board and the two councils where we were able to ask more questions and hear again from Sonoma Power. Then the process started where it goes to the different governing boards for approval. Clear Lake last week voted no, not to bring in Sonoma Power. So technically, we don't know, we think Sonoma Power would still, modify the offer to let the county join if we vote that way in 2 weeks. But that's kind of got to be reconfigured, but that's how it looks right now. So we're still moving forward. We had a meeting yesterday at the Board of Supervisors where it was on our agenda to have a pre-review of our ordinance and resolutions and how they would look should we make this vote on the 21st to bring in Sonoma Power, and that they still then modify the offer to let that happen, because there's a little wrench now with Clear Lake being out. So the point I wanted to make is it's really important for people, if they have thoughts on this, either, the power or the GeoZone portion, please, contact the board, come to the meeting, or send us comments, before the meeting on what you think, or get on the meeting online on the 21st. It's going to be a timed item. I think it's at 9 o'clock. It's going to be basically the first item after we do Moments of Silence pledge and all that. So that's just kind of a concise situation on where it's at, and that, it's really important for the public, if they have thoughts on that, to contact their supervisors. The next thing I wanted to go over is, you may or may not be aware, but there is the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act that has been around for about 10 or 11 years now. And in Lake County, we have the Big Valley Groundwater Basin. So basically, the county is charged through our water resources with managing that groundwater basin. And as part of that management, there's been created an ad hoc committee that looks at this and makes recommendations to the Board of Supervisors on things such as that. And they're going to be coming to the board in about the middle of November to talk to us about funding concerns for managing the groundwater. So we have to do this, otherwise if we don't, then the state can come in and say, we're going to manage it and here's your bill. So it's important that we figure this out. So this ad hoc, it works with the community. It has stakeholders from agriculture. It has other non-government agencies, water resources staff, and there's actually a few vacant positions. I don't know the titles of them all right now, but what's going to happen in November is they're going to come, they're primarily going to ask our board to reconfigure some stormwater funding that we've given them through primarily, I believe, cannabis the last few years. But there's also going to be an introduction of a discussion about an assessment of well water users, whether it's a home or a farm or whatever, that's going to be coming into this discussion. And the reason that it's coming in is right now there's no sustainable funding for groundwater management of this basin. We can, if we do reconfigure this money, we'll be okay for a year or two. And I'm not arguing, for or against anything to do with the assessment. I'm bringing this forward to get it out in the public, to let you know that's going to be a discussion, so that the public can be aware of this and come watch those meetings and be involved. Because I'm sure people are going to have questions about, if there's going to be charges for well water use that you're not paying for now. So, and of course that wouldn't be a decision that would be made at that meeting, because this is these are extensive processes where, if there is initiation to move forward, it's got to go through studies and ultimately has to go on the ballot for a Prop 218 process for a vote of the people. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there. And that's the end of my report for tonight.
Is there a point paper or something that the general public can look at that helps understand what they're doing and what the,
There's a
drive is?
website on the county page called I believe it's the Groundwater Sustainability Management Act. I just talked to county staff today about if there was going to be updates put on there, and they stated that there was going to be some updates put on there soon. I'll look for the page after my report and try to get you some better info, but it's on our county website, and it should be under the Groundwater Sustainability Management Act.
Okay, and one more question, going back to your item 3 about Sonoma Power.
Yeah.
What was the objection that Clear Lake has with the plan?
So I watched the meeting. The council members that voted no not to bring it in had concerns that were related to primarily the geothermal entering the geozone for the county, which, and I'm speaking from my opinion, that's really in the county's purview, because all any geozone projects are going to be out in the in the unincorporated areas of the county. So they stated concerns about that, and then also some other concerns about that the tribes weren't involved in the pre-discussion. But there was no intention to leave tribes out. I mean, there was public outreach done, but the law in California is that the decisions get made for these by city or county government. So the plan has always been to work with tribes and outreach with tribes. Should we decide to bring Sonoma Power in, then of course everyone's going to be educated, including tribes, on, if you don't want to be a customer, you stay with PG&E. You'll have that option. And then I think the most important collaboration with the tribes, if this ends up happening, is going to be on if we're developing future geothermal. But that's just a conversation. That's what's on the table. There's no plan for more geothermal. The idea of entering the geozone is that that's going to be a public conversation and a possibility of future projects that could benefit our county, our economy, and further jobs and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I would encourage you to watch the Clear Lake Council meeting if you have further questions. It's on YouTube, City of Clear Lake. Any further questions? Thank you.
There's a hand back.
The 21st, the same as us. So ours will be at 9 in the morning. Their vote will be after their meeting starts at 6 p.m. on the 21st. And they're still moving forward with, just like we are. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have Helen Finch for the Kelseyville Business Association. Any updates that we should be aware of?
I would say that the biggest bit of news that Kelseyville Business Association has to share tonight is our taking on of a stretch of highway from Renfro Road to Crookshank Road. We have adopted it. And so we have a team of about 8 people that will be getting out there 6 times a year, at least, to just get things cleaned up. And we hope, we've kind of done this to tie together with our Clean Kelseyville effort, which has been underway for this past year, where we have had quarterly cleanups, engaging about 30 members as a rule, or 30 individuals have come out to help us. And so we've been feeling quite successful about that. All of that is tied to our effort to become a Clean California designated community through Caltrans. So kind of building blocks. That's our latest. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Okay. All right, our next guest is Shannon Walker, who is the Deputy Community Development Administrator, public draft, to talk about the public draft of the Climate Adaptation Plan.
Thank you for having me tonight. As Rick said, I'm Shannon Walker-Smith, Deputy Community Development Administrator. And with me is Julie Kennard. She's one of our technicians in our department. She's going to be taking some notes because this is a little bit of an active session. So I'm going to do a brief overview of where we are at with both Lake County 2050 and the Climate Adaptation Plan. And then I'm going to pose some discussion questions. We're on a tour here, taking a lot of community input on this plan, which we will have a public draft of very soon. So hopefully most of you know that we are engaged over the last year or so with a project called Lake County 2050. It's a comprehensive update of our Lake County General Plan, all 8 local area plans, including Kelseyville, and this Climate Adaptation Plan. The Climate Adaptation Plan is on a slightly different schedule from the rest of the project because it's funded by a grant that we received in collaboration with the Risk Reduction Authority and a few other partners to do climate adaptation work. And so we are at the tail end, actually, of this climate adaptation process. We have been out in the community one round before, kind of collecting some community input. Maybe some of you talked with us at that time when we did our last round of municipal advisory council meetings. And then we also issued a couple surveys to the community, so maybe a couple of you participated in those. So we've been collecting input for a long time. The Climate Adaptation Plan started with a climate vulnerability assessment, which looked at both populations and assets and programs in our community that are particularly at risk in climate disasters and related to climate hazards. And so that vulnerability assessment is complete. It's on the Lake County 2050 website. We did a survey, or had a survey posted on that site for a little bit, just kind of truth checking that climate vulnerability analysis. So maybe a few of you participated in that survey. We didn't get that one out very wide. But if you have input, if you want to read over that climate vulnerability analysis and you have any input, you're certainly welcome to comment on the website regarding that. And so beyond the assessment or the analysis, now we're in this phase of developing the strategies to address these vulnerabilities. And in conjunction with our Climate Resiliency Office and Terry Logston, who's been mentioned one other time tonight, we are looking at the strategies that we can develop to protect these vulnerable populations and assets in our community. And we're doing that through these pillars of resilience, which are on your handout if you're interested in reading about all of those. So we're looking for input tonight on the development of these strategies. And there's a couple of questions that we wanted to ask the group. And just for clarity, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for the county to kind of respond to your questions to us about what it is that we're gonna do to help with climate hazards. But tonight, we're here for me to ask you, what do you think we should do? So this is going to be you answering my questions instead of vice versa. And just wanted to clarify that because at my last meeting last week, the community started asking me a lot of questions. Well, what about this program? And what about this thing that we've heard about or other communities are doing? There's going to be the time for that. But tonight, what we really want to do is ask you, what do you think should go into the plan? And so hopefully you've had a chance to read the overview at the top here. I'm going to launch into our first question. Julie's going to be taking some notes for us. So what programs, resources, or services have been most successful in our community so far that have helped us prepare for and respond to climate-related hazards such as wildfire, floods, extreme heat, and drought? So what already exists that's going well that we want to preserve in our community? Yeah, Tom.
The emergency calls that we get from the sheriff when there is a fire or something naturally, that's
Okay, thank you for that.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah,
Yeah, for the audience, I have an extra microphone.
yeah, if you want,
And do we have people on Zoom too that are watching and
Do you have people on Zoom?
we do, so
Yeah.
we can open it up to them as well.
Absolutely.
okay, so to repeat the question, what programs, resources, and services have been most successful in helping our community to prepare for, respond to, and recover from climate-related hazards such as wildfire, floods, extreme heat, and drought? What's working so far in our community? And Tom's going to repeat his answer for the folks on Zoom.
Yeah, this is Tom. The emergency notifications we get from the Sheriff's Department via the phone or text message, I think that is a vast improvement where it was, say, 10 years ago.
Okay, thank you. And Tom will hand off the microphone to whoever wants to speak next.
Along those lines, I think that CAL FIRE's response time has also been very instrumental in getting on fires right away.
Absolutely. This year has been remarkable in how fast they've addressed fires.
Yeah, along those lines, so CAL FIRE is like mainly responsible for like even small fires that start. I mean, the Kelseyville Fire Protection District responds as well, but as far as aircraft go, my name is Greg, by the way, Greg Farrell.
Hi, Greg.
So as far as you guys have been in existence for a year, and so you're asking right now for like what have we observed that's sort of helped with mitigating climate-related hazards and stuff like that? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, just to clarify, we're the Community Development Department. We've been around for a lot longer than a year, but we've been working on this particular plan for a year.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I meant. I'm sorry. So it's kind of, until like a real major disaster, well, there's things that can happen like medium disasters and stuff like that or whatever, I guess. But until something really, you do the best planning that you can. You plan for the worst and hope for the best. But it's in a year, I can't remember anything offhand that was, that I would point to where I could say, oh, this is a better response than this really helped, except, for like, the small fires that we've had, which have been well handled. And we didn't even have any smoke issues very much to speak of this year, which was great. I guess what I don't want to ask you a question because you said you didn't want any questions, but I guess just as a general question,
Yeah.
does your purview include like changing building codes at all to address the fire hazards that we have to deal with?
The Building and Safety Division is in community development, and that sounds like that could be an answer to number 3. What specific actions could the county take?
Okay.
So right now, we want to talk about what's working, what programs, services have helped our communities recover from past disasters. And it doesn't have to be
Oh, I see
within
what
a
you're
year.
saying. Okay.
Could be for, say, over
Yeah.
the last decade.
Right.
Prepare and recover from in the past. Like what is working currently, and we're going to get to the things that what could we do in addition to that. So
Okay.
anything else that the community wants to say about what's currently working?
Thank you, by the way.
Sure, well, I
Yeah.
would say that our different organizations that have stepped up to house and care for victims and people who are displaced has been really impressive.
Great. And you're talking about Red Cross, you want to say?
Well, Red Cross is the first one
Others?
that comes to mind, but I'm also talking about, I want to say Twin Pines.
Okay.
They open up and,
Great.
house so many people. I think we did it at the high school. I know that they've tried doing some things like that at Grace Church, and I think that Kelseyville Presbyterian Church is working themselves on becoming there's a resilience facility.
Great.
So I think that, to continue paying some attention and supporting and getting behind those organizations would be beneficial.
So it sounds like
Well-
sheltering is working, which is
And
primarily the
critical,
Red Cross, but
obviously.
it sounds like maybe there are some other church communities or other communities that
Yeah,
are
I feel
also
like
trying to
Red
do
Cross seems to come in
some
and
sheltering.
get people squared away with paperwork. And I imagine they bring some jackets and some supplies and different things like that. So, obviously that's wonderful and critical, but I think, yeah, just as I say, the organizations who are opening their facilities and allowing that, Red Cross couldn't do it if they didn't.
Right.
They pull up in a van, they're not going to be really any help, but these facilities, these organizations and groups of individuals that make that happen are pretty important.
Thank you.
Can I have something?
Yeah.
I live in Kelseyville, and I take soda, oh, I'm pretty loud. I may not need it. What I noticed last year, driving home, Soda Bay was a company, it wasn't, CAL FIRE is up the road now, chopping down trees. We've had a lot of diseased trees in the Ribs area that are so prone to, all of them are prone to wildfire. But I was just really impressed, and I feel like it's making a difference. Maybe it's deforestation, but there was a crew for several months in the Black Forest area cutting trees down and clearing the forest. And now they're working up towards, between Riviera Heights and Riviera West. And I think it's really important that even the community I live in, we're held to a pretty high standard with, clearing the properties. And my sister came up a few weeks ago, and it had been a while, and she said, wow, what a difference up here. It was really well-groomed, and we've been mindful about removing dead trees and debris that is just really has had a hard effect on its growth and life with the climate that we're in right now. So I've noticed that.
Okay, great. For your notes that you're also writing, you can call that fuel reduction work.
Fuel reduction.
My name is Brad,
Brad.
and I would kind of like to piggyback on that and add on to it, not just in the area of the Black Forest, but all along Soda Bay. I really appreciate how much they took down the debris from the road for like 15 or 20 feet. I mean, it was major this year. They took down all the trees and all the stuff. And I feel like that was really helpful in not creating fires, getting all that dead stuff right off the side of the roads.
Absolutely.
I appreciated that.
As a big project for the Soda Bay evacuation route work. Others about what is working, what's helping our community currently prepare for. Oh, yep, absolutely, go ahead.
What I've noticed, though, is 3 or 5 years ago, the kids weren't aware of go bags or getting prepared. And I had a troop of Girl Scouts, and that was one of the main issues, to make sure their families had these. I had 5 of them that lived off of Soda Bay Road. And so I think making all the youth aware of what's going on and having them project it to their families and to the community. So
Yeah.
You should have a go bag, and these kids are learning what they are.
Yeah, I think there's multiple organizations working on that style of programming around go bags and Ready, Set, Go and some of those youth programs.
Hi, my name is Carrie, and one thing that I've really seen work well in the community, especially around like climate, like heat or cold spells, are the resiliency centers. It's a great place, and it's not just for people who are experiencing homelessness. It's
Right.
also for someone whose air conditioner is out or their water is out for whatever reason. So the resiliency centers have a space for the whole community to go when it's super hot. They have water, they have local resources, so I feel like those have really helped out.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a good one. Here, and then Mark?
We've kind of dipped our, sorry.
That's
no,
okay.
it's okay. In terms of calling out specific programs that have been successful, so I myself have not been a participant in them, but several of my neighbors are participating in NCO's home hardening program.
Yes.
And that makes me feel a lot safer, even though my landlord is not participating, but knowing that the houses around me are a little bit safer has definitely been something that's really helpful living in Kelseyville.
Yeah, for sure. And Kelseyville has been lucky to have that program. I think we're hoping that we're going to be able to expand that program out to the rest of the community. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what was the program?
Home hardening?
The what?
Home hardening?
Home hardening.
Home hardening. Okay.
an acronym too for.
Right, right.
NCO.
NCO. Okay.
NCO's program. Yeah, they were the grant recipient on that.
Kind of in the flooding area, we had a presentation here, but I think we've dipped our toe, and hopefully you guys we can continue that effort, is the Coal Creek dredging, and so that we can have that proper runoff of water rather than going into the fields and into homes and things like that.
That's a great one.
Where there's regular flooding. The other thing that I like is the natural resources conservation resources group. They've been very good about coming out to, I mean, most of the farms around here have been able to take advantage of it, coming out and seeing what they can do on your property that would help with the environment, that would help mitigate some of the things that are going on. Maybe it's even putting in a tree just for shade rather than just dry heat coming in. Little things like that, but I hope they're able to continue that.
NCRS, right?
Yes.
Is that program
NCRS.
that's a state program.
Oh, okay.
But no, that's still a
NRCS,
resource.
sorry,
Yeah, we're
NRCS.
still going to put that one on the list,
Yeah.
NCRS. Thank you.
And I,
NRCS.
NRCS.
Natural
Conservation.
Resources Conservation, something.
Resource. yeah. And
S
I
is for
just,
something. Service, it's federal?
and I just wanted to mention, and we've had a couple presentation in this council before, Firewise Communities.
Oh, yes.
I've just been informed actually that there's one that's going to kick off next month for the Kelsey Creek White Way area, which includes me, so I'm very happy about it. And that will go basically from Stahelli and Kelsey Creek Drive all the way through White Way. Not quite all the way to Adobe Creek Drive, but if anybody, any people might see flyers soon in their mailboxes about this, and I believe they have their first meeting on November 15th. So I think we'll probably mention that next meeting here. We might even have the person who is going to be driving that.
Great, yes,
So I think
Firewise
those
Communities.
things are great. You know, it's not just 2% discount on your insurance. It's also just, community coming together and informing each other of, and helping each other in some cases to, clear things and providing advice.
Yes, great. Firewise Communities. Okay, in the essence of time, I'm going to move on to question 2. What challenges are preventing residents and community organizations from implementing climate adaptation measures like defensible space, home hardening, water conservation, or emergency preparedness? And what solutions or support would help? Yeah, Rick.
Funding.
Yes. Funding's always the big one. Thank you very much for doing that.
Tom Lasik again. I live in a pretty rural area, and there's a couple challenges. One is a lot of the properties around me are sort of absentee owners, and so they're not particularly interested in home hardening or defensible space. So it's quite a bit of a challenge for that. I would like to see some support and maybe even for my own benefit to figure out how I can participate in maybe a larger group to get those types of things done. Our roads for, fire safety are always important, and we're obviously challenged with that. And then the other one, as far as defensible space in a rural area, I know we have, say, grading ordinances for fire breaks. I'd like to have that revisited and maybe another pass through to see what we can do to encourage property owners to consider fire breaks for their property, especially if it's mountainous and rugged. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I think one of the challenges that is collectively faced is just communication and outreach to the community. As far as like solutions, I'll always be an advocate on this board to engage our youth, engaging our students in our schools, presenting things to them. I believe that they are the fastest way to get to the parents. So in terms of solutions, I think reaching out to students is one of the best ways you guys could get the message across.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you. Others? What challenges are preventing us from doing a better job around defensible space, home hardening?
I think a lot of people, especially senior citizens, just don't have the funds to make it happen. Obviously, that's where some Firewise communities are sometimes coming to the help of that. I believe there was, Jessica, I believe there was a program, I don't know if all the funds were used for that earlier this year that addressed that.
There's a couple of things happening.
Yeah, so I think funding and ability are
Yeah.
two things that are problematic for schools. These are priorities and having programs around that.
Yeah. Anything else on this question?
Maybe just one more, this is Tom again.
Yeah.
A couple of my neighbors have a lot of horses. and
Horses?
They have horses, and you know, although they have trailers, they have to kind of do a Sophie's choice on which horse do they evacuate with. If there were programs that maybe they exist and they just need to be communicated to help those types of residents, you know, get all their animals out or sheltered or what have you, I think would be good, because it would encourage them to not try to shelter in place and try to get out.
Right.
Yeah, so any plan to
Animal
reactivate
evac.
LEAP?
What was that?
Any plans to reactivate LEAP?
I'm not sure.
I think there's some discussions going on. That's the Lake Animal Rescue Program, which would do stuff like that.
I know they're actively working on Ag Pass, and then maybe LEAP will follow. We'll see. But we can definitely put that on the list as well. Animal evac and the LEAP program, yeah. Okay, I'm going to move on to the third question. What specific actions could the County of Lake or the Community Risk Reduction Authority take to support resilience and adaptation efforts?
I got one.
Yep.
Okay, glad you asked.
That's what I'm here for.
I have mentioned this before, I've been on this sort of kick, in fact, and then there was a representative at the farmer's market this week talking about, now they were talking about aquaponics, but I think if we could experiment with hydroponics, in a couple of the farm areas, certainly use mine as the guinea pig if you want, but the hydroponics is where you have the water drive, you guys are familiar with hydroponics, you drive the water through and you continue to drive it through these vessels that basically is drip irrigation, right? And you can put the nutrients in there and the water and all of that, but it continues to go through, so it's recycling the water rather than the water just going into the ground, and then you've got to pull water from somewhere else and then keep pulling, whereas this will keep recycling until it needs to pull, and then it will pull. And I just wonder, you know, we see it now blossoming in urban areas, small scale, like gardens and things like that, but to try to do it on a larger scale, perhaps, and that might help with water
Conservation. Great one. You got that, Jules? Okay, Rick.
Well, as many here probably are aware, the California Fair Plan is seeking a 35.8% rate increase, average rate increase. And you would think that if you had a plan like this in force that's being managed and funded, would we be able to see that type of increase decreased? You know, so I think that, has any discussion with the insurance industry on having these kinds of plans, any opportunity there to negotiate and get those rates down if we could implement? I mean, the way it looks to me is that you're going to pay one way or the other. You're either going to pay a super high insurance premium and continue to live in a high hazardous area, or you're going to do something about it and probably cost you a lot of money just to do something about it, but maybe in the process keep your families safe. That's just my opinion.
Okay, so we're going to call that advocate for fire, reduction in fire insurance premiums.
Well, on that same note, I was just looking today because like many people, so I'm with State Farm. 2 years ago, they increased by 18%. Last year, they increased by 30%. So to the point that my mortgage now is like, pretty much a third of it is insurance. And I was looking at the discounts. So I mentioned earlier the 2% discount for Firewise Community. And I was looking at the other discounts, things I have done actually, defensible space, material, non-flammable or fire resistant materials, all sorts of, and those discounts are ridiculous. They're like 0.5%. And I don't understand why they're not more significant, because they should be. We know from the IHSS that it makes a huge difference if you have, your house has, zone 0, if your gutters are clean and all that. Those discounts should be way higher than just a 0.5%.
Agreed.
Anyway.
Thank you.
Hi, so I was in another climate adaptation meeting last week with CHARM.
Yes.
And lots of great ideas. One of the things that really stood out to me was like a more comprehensive alert system, like the Lake CO alerts, but that inform the community about like where resiliency centers are, where evacuation centers are, like something more comprehensive.
Okay.
So just to, because that's one of the things that I see is that the community just doesn't know what's going on around them, so.
Thank you.
Piggybacking on some of the themes already discussed tonight, one is water conservation, as Mark had mentioned earlier, and the importance of Big Valley Basin sustainability management, water conservation in all our land use decisions, especially when it comes to discretionary use permits. Taking a harder look at, are we really managing that system in a smart way for conservation and sustainability? Are we looking at conditions of use and really making those estimated water usage matter? Is there just something on paper that can be easily ignored? The other is conservation and being more forward-thinking and maybe taking advantage of any technology that's available to us. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes,
Okay,
Rick.
and just one more of the barriers, I guess this would apply to your question number 2.
Back
is
to
that
2.
we still have climate change deniers that we live amongst. And so, again, it's going to be, I don't know how you work through that to get everybody on the same page, but again, that's going to be another battle to try to get everybody working together.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anything on any of the 3 questions that we could circle back to? Otherwise, I'll wrap up and give the floor to someone else. Great. Thank you so much for having me. I hope that you see that your thoughts and ideas reflected in the public draft, which we'll have out, I believe, sometime in late November, but definitely before the holiday break. So look for that, and we will have that back out, and that will be another opportunity for your input. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Shannon. Okay, the next presentation. Lisa Judd cannot be here tonight, so we have in her place.
Lisa is here.
Oh, she is here. Sorry, Lisa?
That's confused with Elise Jones.
Yes.
Elise Jones. Okay, never mind. I've got my names crossed here. So I think we have Scott Abbott, and we have Carrie Manning with us tonight. And we're going to be talking about wait a minute. We're going to be talking about behavioral health services and issues at Pioneer Park.
Hi, my name is Scott Abbott. Elise apologized for not being able to be here this evening. She had didn't realize she had a conflicting school board meeting in Lucerne. So I'm filling in. I don't know if you want to hear me or not. Anyway, so my name is Scott Abbott. I'm the program manager for behavioral health. It's over our Behavioral Health Services Act and also housing. And we have some staff with us this evening that I brought along. We have Megan right here, who's our public outreach person. Carrie right here, who's over our peer support centers and outreach. And then Mountain in the back there, who's also, he's one of our peer support specialists, and he does outreach. And they do outreach here, to come here, and so that's why I've asked him to come here. Behavioral Health does have an outreach program that goes out with a van to homeless encampments and finds people that are homeless. We offer services, provide services. Behavioral Health is also part of the continuum of care. We are the administrative entity for the housing continuum of care, which also addresses homelessness in the county. And so you know, we end up doing a lot with the homeless. And I understand you have some questions or some concerns about the homeless encampment at Pioneer Park.
Well, Pioneer Park has been probably one of the biggest concerns that we have among the business community primarily, but we just learned yesterday, I think it was, one of our KBA members who was out going through the park before the Pear Fest, and she discovered like 4 or 5 hypodermic or syringes out there. You know, there's a lot of alcohol abuse and drug use out there. There are a lot of people out of control, becoming a nuisance. And then you have just the general homeless that are just have no better place to go. Maybe they're not involved with that problem, but the drug alcohol problem. But I think it's the drug alcohol problem that are probably giving the business community the biggest, disturbance with doing their businesses in town. So, again, it gets to people making phone calls, not feeling like enough action's happening. Where do you take these people? Are they coming back? It's probably the same thing that every community's having, but, where are we at? Where would you say? Are we?
Well, first of all, I'm going to have Carrie kind of describe what our current efforts are, and then I'd like to talk about, after she's done with that, talk about what some future plans are.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. So we started our street outreach program 2022, and we have had close to 6,000 contacts with people since then. Our unhoused population is growing. They're very hidden. I wanted to speak tonight about what we've been doing here in Kelseyville. Due to staffing, we can come to Kelseyville once a week, and we try to be as consistent as we can. There are hiccups along the way. I've come out with Mountain a few times. Mountain is the one that is working the most with the people at Pioneer Park. And I came out with him a few weeks ago and was able to talk to some of the people and kind of gauge their interest in finding housing. And so most of them would like to find housing, you know? I mean, that they don't want to be out on the streets. And so my plan is to get everybody entered into what Scott was talking about, the coordinated entry system that will connect them into what's called the hub with Adventist Health. And then hopefully we can get them signed up with some programs to help with applying for Social Security so that they can have an income. It will also assign them a housing navigator, so if they have income, you know, they'll be able to find housing through different programs. I do want to mention, I didn't observe any drug use when we were over at the park. There was, you know, people with alcohol, I will say that. And, you know, one thing that I really want people to understand is that most of the people that we talk to are residents of Kelseyville. Like, they grew up in Kelseyville. They were your neighbors. They still are your neighbors. You know, that's the same like with our PIT count, which is our point in time count. I would say about roughly, what was it, 80% are long-term residents of Lake County? Higher than that? So, I was trying to, you know, yeah, probably like 93%. And, you know, I was conversating with one of the women, and she's like, you know, I've actually tried to get hired on. She's like, and people just look down their noses at me. And, you know, I get it, you know, having someone who's unhoused and hanging out in a park, it's unsightly. It's unsightly. But she's lived in Kelseyville her whole life, you know, and does want to get off the streets. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of housing within Lake County, and I know that there's plans to work on that. Our shelter, you know, does not hold a lot of people, and most our 3 shelters are usually always full. I know in the past we've done different things like resiliency overnight centers, where we have opened up churches and other empty businesses and allowed people to sleep there when it's super, super cold, when it's hot, you know, and we've helped staff those through behavioral health. And so that's where we're at. I really wanted to put the human aspect in this, as well as what we do. We take a lot of our people from Lakeport to the showers here in Kelseyville, and then we do outreach here. We've built a really good rapport with a lot of the people, and so now we need to start getting them into systems that might be able to help them. But you can't force them, you know, so like if I'm talking to somebody and they don't want the help, right. I can't do that, so.
How many people are we talking about?
Here at the park?
Yeah.
So last, 2 weeks ago, there were, I counted 16 people. And we talked to about 12 people. And there was about 4 dogs out there.
There were about 4 what?
Dogs.
Oh,
Canines.
yeah.
So, you know.
Well, what do you see as what do we need to do? I mean, it's mostly money, isn't it? It's about funding and.
Well, and you know, I'm not from Kelseyville. I used to live in the Riviera, but now I live in Lakeport. Just sit and have conversations with people, you know, find out why they're migrating to the park, you know, find out, is there someplace else that you guys would feel comfortable? You know, the reason that they go to the park is because it's an open area, their friends are there, families there, you know, so they can kind of migrate there and hang out. And it's, you know, there's no huge answer, because I feel like we could have the funding, we could build tiny homes, we can build structures. Some people just aren't going to want to go there. And it's not necessarily because of alcohol or drugs. It's because they don't want to be within 4 walls.
I understand, but I think our biggest complaint has been the drug and the alcohol abuse. And and how it's been impacting some of the businesses, you know, where
And I
where
understand
it
that.
scares people away from even coming in the area. So if you're coming into the area from out of town and you want to go park, you know, and all you're seeing is a bunch of people that are out of control, what's your impression of our community?
I would call our mobile crisis response team.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, good.
Which leads
So-
right to Megan.
Yes, hi. So I'm Megan Morgan, and I'm the community liaison with Lake County Behavioral Health Services. And I really want to highlight one of our programs that you may not be familiar with, which is our Mobile Crisis Response Team. That is a team that is staffed by local people here from Lake County who understand our very limited resources, who understand how hard it is living in a rural area and accessing services. And they don't only deal with mental health crisis, they also deal with substance use crisis. So this is a tool that could be potentially used if somebody is in crisis and in public. There is a barrier where if they are refusing services, we can't force them, but we can come to them and offer those services, which we do a lot of the time. We have a couple of teams that work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are typically there within an hour, so I can't say we'll always be able to race immediately there, but we are there typically pretty fast. And even if they decline our services the first time, we will continue making contact with them until basically they tell us absolutely not, which we'll keep asking anyways, or until they enter services. So that's a resource that not necessarily everyone is aware of,
Exactly.
but is very beneficial for our county, and I will give the phone number.
I was going to say, how do we make that,
Yes.
posted on every,
Well,
you know,
or a
so
handout that goes to
everyone
every
here
business
at Park
owner
has it,
here,
so that
you know, something like
business
that.
owners have it? I mean, that's something that
Yeah.
everyone in the community should have.
So I can offer myself, I will come through and drop off flyers for our mobile crisis
That would be
response
huge.
team.
That'd be great.
I will try and do that by early next week for you guys to
Okay.
give you an actual time frame for that. Sorry, Jessica, you have a question.
And Megan, Elise and I have talked about this a lot. And how many times have you sent the van here?
Once a week for gosh, as long as I've worked here.
Has anyone seen what the van looks like? Yeah. Come to my church?
Every Thursday, I feed all of them, I clothe all of them, I cook food. I know all their names, their birthdays, and their family.
And we've even gone up to Cobb the times that you've asked us to, but we can't find anybody up there, you know, but.
We know they're
here,
there.
We've made really good relationship with the people in the park and also by the creek.
Real quick, I'm going to list the phone number just so if anybody wants it, you can call us. And again, this is somebody local from our area who's answering, not just a dispatcher from goodness knows where. Our phone number is 1-800-900-2075. And I will come through and drop off flyers for you guys early next week. I will just walk down Main Street and do that for you guys if that's all right with you.
share it with me, I can get it out. I'm working on a downtown-specific email list.
That would be
The
wonderful.
individual, whether they are a business or they are just a resident on Main Street, essentially, we're trying to be able to communicate with them directly, and having this kind of information to share with them would be huge. Because they're
Absolutely.
really the ones that see most of the activity.
Oh. Megan, how is the mobile crisis response team funded?
So it is a Medi-Cal funded program. However, you do not have to be a Medi-Cal member to qualify for services. We will attempt to bill anyone's insurance if they're not Medi-Cal, say they have like private insurance, we will attempt to bill them. But we will never turn somebody down for services just because their insurance doesn't match us perfectly or anything like that.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I know you had a question.
Hi, Greg Farrell again. I've done some reading about the CARE program, which was a state initiative, and they rolled it out in the high population counties to start. And then the idea, I think by now, it's supposed to be a statewide program, and so it's a state, so the state's putting money behind as far as CARE goes. And I wanted to know if you could talk about one of the provisions that they included in CARE, because it has legal, judicial remedies for people who continually refuse service. That's one of the big issues about getting people off the street, is that they just say, no, I don't want to go with you, I don't want to go, because they might be suffering from paranoia or something like that, where they don't like to be confined or in a small space with other people they don't know necessarily. But Carrie was saying that in our case here, it's like the people that she's talked to want to be housed. They just can't get services. So really, that's to me like an easier sell. I mean, if you had the money to provide them a place to live, to get off the street, but then I'm also hearing on your end of it is that some people just keep refusing. So like how does it break down? Because can you address the fact that there is a provision in the CARE Act to where they become like almost like a ward of the court, whereas the court can say, no, we're going to go ahead and do that. You're going to go through this. We're going to put you in this program, whether you really are in love with it or not. And because that's how you get, because most of the people have dual diagnoses, that are on the street. They've got alcohol and, maybe not in Kelseyville, but around the state, people have a lot of mental and substance abuse problems. And if you just let them keep saying no all the time, you're never going to be able to help them get the help they need.
So yeah, and perhaps Scott may be more familiar with the CARE Act, but I've been becoming more familiar with it myself as it is active in Lake County now. So to give people some background of what the CARE Act is, it is a judicial process in which individuals who have schizoaffective disorder or diagnosed, it's all schizoaffective. Sorry, I thought they were combined. But schizoaffective and schizophrenia who have been untreated, and it can mandate them to receive treatment. However, one thing that I like to note, because this was something that it took me a while to understand, is it does not push them into the criminal court system. So while it does mandate them, and it has kind of that black robe effect of a judge is telling you to do this thing, it is not like if you don't do this thing, you're going to go to jail and face those repercussions. So it does have some kind of barriers of, yes, it does encourage individuals who may have been less likely to seek treatment, who may have declined it previously. It does encourage them a lot more, but it doesn't really force their hand either, and I just want to make that clear. Scott, do you have more to say in regards to that?
I think, what you started to mention right there is because it's, it is very limited as far as diagnosis, which is really interesting. It has to be that schizophrenic or schizoaffective disorder, which is, folks that are experiencing delusions and hallucinations, the really kind of extreme folks, as opposed to, someone that might have PTSD or depression, that doesn't help those folks. There's only very, very narrow kind of population of what that act is designed for. But what it does do, as Megan mentioned, is it helps people get into the system. It does have that, like I said, I like that black robe effect, because that's a real thing. But also, because they are kind of in the system, it can also lead to conservatorship too. Conservatorship being where, kind of what you implied, you become a ward of the court, and where that, in that case, treatment placement is mandatory for folks.
Yeah, that's true. I guess this is maybe a situation where the state of California had to get a program going and deal with the schizoaffective disorder thing, and thinking that, okay, that's a big part of it. If we can deal with this, the idea is just to reduce the overall population that's living on the street. And maybe we're not going to solve everybody's problem. We can't do like counseling for people who have like moderate depression or PTSD, like you say, or whatever. But we can get people who are really delusional and deal with them. And maybe that doesn't always fit a place like Kelseyville. But if they do get it to the point where there's a conservatorship, then the court becomes like responsible for that person. That's what a conservator is. He's responsible for this person's maintenance, if you want to put it that way. Right. So I think it's, I guess what I was asking was, to what extent are we making use of that? provision, or is it even is schizoaffective disorder even a thing that is a
Yeah,
huge
it is.
issue around here?
We do have people in the program. We actually, have a coordinator for that particular program.
Okay.
And so it operates, he works with the court, and we provide, treatment for folks from that. It's not a whole lot of people, but it is some folks. But if you don't mind, I'd like to talk a little bit more about other kind of things that we're working on. Through the continuum of care, which I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
which-
Scott, can you talk in the microphone, please? We're having a hard time hearing over here.
Sorry. The continuum of care, which I mentioned previously, the housing continuum of care. One of the things that they have done recently is obtained a state grant called the Encampment Resolution Funding Grant. And as you can maybe kind of pick up from just the title of that, it's designed to address encampments across the community, homeless encampments. Lake County received about $1.5 million for that, which isn't a whole lot of money because we had some really grand ideas of building tiny homes and doing some things like that, but then we realized that was kind of out of our price range to do that. But we do plan essentially the money will go to 3 different areas. One is outreach, to continue our outreach efforts to make sure that we can, keep reaching out to the encampments. You have to outreach to them to get them involved in being able to get some help. The second one is we're looking at doing safe parking, which we put an RFP out for someone to do that. Catholic Charities actually won that particular RFP, and so they will be being able to do safe parking. Safe parking is what that is people, I think as Carrie mentioned, sometimes people don't like to go into a shelter having those 4 walls, but they maybe will feel more comfortable going into a place that's where they, particularly if they have a car, where they can just park and be in a safe place. There'll be services to be available, and monitoring. And so it's an idea of having a place instead of just hanging out at Pioneer Park or wherever, that they can go to a safe place and be able to receive services there. So that's an upcoming thing. And then the third aspect that funding will go to help people get from there into more permanent housing. There's not a lot of, as everyone knows, there's not a lot of housing anywhere in California, and it is probably, I would say, our biggest cause for homelessness is the lack of housing, lack of affordable housing, and so it will help people be able to get those first and last month's rents, and help them get into housing. So there is plans definitely to address, including specifically the Pioneer Park, because that's an encampment that's been identified.
Mm-hmm.
And so we, that's the long-term, well, medium, not in long-term, medium plan.
How do you, go ahead, Mark.
You mentioned expensive for the little houses or the small houses, but I've seen in LA and a couple other places where they've built housing out of the shipping containers, refurbished shipping containers with solar, which keeps the electrical costs down.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have water, obviously, but and then you're basically cutting into the shipping containers, installing a window. You trick out in the shipping container with beds and shelving and things like that. I wonder what that cost would be versus
we've
the
looked
tiny homes.
we've looked into all those type of things like that, and the COC is kind of, they really want to do tiny homes, whether it's doing it in that way or another way. It hasn't really been determined of how to do it, but it is a goal to reach that. We recognize that we're going to have to get some other funding to be able to do a project like that, and so we're continuously looking for that funding.
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying, is that when you look at a tiny home, at even 30 or 40,000, right, for a tiny home, build it out. At least from what I see, 25 maybe. 30.
Yeah, now you can get them it depends on, you know, you get 'em- if you give them like a, like,
But
in
I
bulk,
bought
if you give 'em in
2
bulk.
shipping containers that we put over at hospice. We bought, and I think they were 3,000 apiece.
That's
And
great.
then we put shelving and everything inside of them. I mean, we could have, we could take it a step further and cut windows and
Mhm.
insulate and things like that. I'm just, I don't know,
Yeah. No, I think that's great. You know, one of the things that you remind me of, which I want to remind you of.
Scott, yeah, do you mind if I interject for a
well,
second?
Just real quick, because I will forget. Because the COC it's an open organization. We really encourage community members to join it, be able to provide ideas like what you're talking about. And so it meets on the first Thursday of every month at the Lake Office of Education in Lakeport at 3 o'clock. It's also online. If you don't want to attend in person, you can do it online. The website is lakecoc.org, and really encourage you to, if you have an interest in this, is to come and participate.
That is exactly what I was going to suggest you mention. So great. So there's a lot of conversation around this. There's a lot of resources around this, and there are a lot of agencies and nonprofits and faith-based organizations that are working on these housing strategies around the county. But I wanted to just bring up 2 more points because I know we still have another presentation tonight. Thank you all for being here and talking about the work that's happening directly in Kelseyville. But first, we have our pit count. That is our point in time count, and it happens all over the county on one day in January. And I have been participating in the Kelseyville pit count for many years, and Linda does. And when she says she knows every single person by name and their family members, she probably knows their birthdays too. She really does, because she is serving them. And when we have the pit count at the church, everyone comes, and we've got a lot of resources for them. You can talk to people, you can get to know people, you can find out who these people are. And the reason they come to the park in the afternoon is because a lot of times they sleep down in the creek. And they stay up late, and then they sleep in late at the creek, and then they come up late morning, early afternoon, try and get a meal, try and hang out with everybody. So that's just kind of how the flow works for this group of people. But if you want to participate in the pit count, they will give you more information on how to do that. It's a really great opportunity to understand exactly what's happening in your community. And you will find that these people, like Carrie said, are from here. They've grown up here. They don't want to leave here. And then the other point I wanted to bring up is just the sheer magnitude of resources that behavioral health has been bringing to the county. It has been growing exponentially over the last couple of years. Many, many millions of dollars for all kinds of different services, but the substance use disorder services, every time we sign a contract, we have to increase funding because the need is so great. How many times do you guys say that? Like every time you come. So I just wanted to bring those 2 things up, and maybe you could add the finer points and point people in the right directions. And I don't know if you had another question, Rick. Sorry to interrupt.
I have information about the pit count. Thank you, Scott. So planning is starting for the next pit count, which will happen in January of 2026. I believe it's the last Thursday of the month. The first meeting is on October 30th. It will be virtual. And the information for that is also at the COC's website. So you can, if you want to be a part of that amazing experience, I'm sure you can attest to that, Linda, right? Because the resources, we even try to have resources for their animals, so it's an amazing day. So if anybody would like to be a part of that, we encourage you to also attend that meeting.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Hey, everybody, I'm Mountain. I'm a peer support specialist for Lake County Behavioral Health. I gather your problem is Pioneer Park, and I'm telling you, I work that park every week, and if I could, I'd work it more. Most of those people in that park are not drug addicts. By the way, those 4 needles you found, I was told by sources is those needles were from a gal that was using her for her medicine, not for drugs. I can tell you that needle use is rare in that park. Very rare. They're alcoholics and they're people who like to smoke weed. You know, that's where it is. Now, we can't help you with this solution. To a certain degree we can, but there are solutions to your problem in that park. And it's not the police. The police are the problem. There is a solution where you have, like myself, which I can't because I work for Lake County Behavioral Health, but the business association and the city could hire what they call a park monitor, which is a peer support specialist that comes down and hangs out in the park. A lot of those problems that you get that are disturbances, you know, between 2 people fighting, it's like having, you know, it's like you can break that up like that. They get out of control because there's no supervision. You have to understand that a lot of them, when they get alcohol and drugs in them, and they want to fight and they get angry, it's like kids. So you have a yard monitor. It's a simple solution and it works, and especially in your park, because your park is small and you don't have a big thing. Now you're shaking your head, but I'm telling you, a lot of these people just need to be monitored. You're not, I'll tell you, they used to have a bigger problem at the park at the end of the town. And then the crews started coming in there and working over there, and the kids, and we were there, and we would say, hey man, kids come here. And they kind of drifted to this park. This is a safe park for them. There's really not a whole lot going on in that park that's dangerous to people. Really, how many calls do you get on armed robberies, beating up women, you know, women getting their, you know, purse snatched? That ain't happening in that park. What's happening in Pioneer Park is just a bunch of partiers getting together that aren't supervised. If you get them supervised, you can do it. The other thing is this center right here, a lot of them get mad because they can't come in this center, and it costs them $7 to get something to eat. So they're upset about that. Now, I can tell you that the church and us Thursdays, there is hardly any problems on Thursday. I'm telling you, because you have a place for them to go to eat and you have supervision. Now, I don't know if any of you guys, and I'm pretty sure you didn't, but before this meeting, I went and brought them dinner and sat out there with a couple of the gentlemen. Megan showed up and we hung out and talked. We asked them who is helping in this community and who isn't. And it's amazing, because I thought they would pick out businesses that would complain. A lot of the businesses aren't complaining about them in general. It happens to be a neighbor who's really mad at them. They have because they're doing things that the neighbor doesn't like. Anyhow, all I want to say is there's a solution to your problem at that park. It's not a big problem. It looks big from the outside, but it's really not a big problem. If you force them out of that park, your neighbors in the other area are going to complain about the same thing. So anyhow, you know, the other thing I want to say is this. If there's people there to help them, they will get the help. You can't get them to quit, but you can get them to slow down. You can get them to not act up. You know what I mean? So there are solutions, you know, out of here. If you're willing to talk to me, I can kind of help you with that. It's outside of the box. My bosses are here and probably going, oh my God, Mountain, what are you doing? But there are solutions, and I'm just letting you know that.
Just to respond to what you just said, it was business owners that prompted us to ask you to be here. It wasn't neighbors, it was business owners. And before you showed up, before your group showed up, we had the sheriff out here talking about, you know, their problems and the fact that they don't have enough patrolmen to monitor it and do all those kinds of things. So, you know, we just see that, okay, well, we still got a problem. Now, you've indicated that there's not much drug use going on, but, you know, for any of us, if we find syringes out in the park, and you're going to turn that park into a kid's town for the day, that throws out a lot of red flags. You know, now we got to be concerned. Is some kid going to fall on a needle or something like that? So we don't know. So we got to go through with a magnet or something and make sure we don't have any of those kind of things.
No, here's the...
At any rate, what you're telling us is that the bigger problem is alcohol, and I don't disagree with that. But again, the problem isn't really going away, and it's the business community that's been complaining about it.
So the solution is the monitor. If you have somebody monitoring somebody who's shooting drugs, say there is somebody there that comes to that park every day and shoots up drugs. If you have a monitor there and says, hey, you can't shoot drugs, that's what the police would do, then there wouldn't be that problem. The other thing is if you had a dispenser in the bathroom for needle dispensary, they'd probably use it. So that's a simple solution on why they're not on the ground. Okay, to me, to me, it's about monitoring their behavior. It's about telling them, hey, you're a little too loud, calm down. By the time the cops get called and come here, everything's escalated.
Yeah.
It's not against the law for them to sit in the park and smoke a joint and drink a beer. The problem is when they start harassing people, right? They're harassing the business owners or whatever. That can be easily stopped. It really can. You know, it's all about, is the city, is the business owners willing to bring in a hall monitor?
I have a question for, I guess, all of you. I was on a homeless task force in Los Angeles, and we had someone come and speak to us from Santa Monica. And they said they thought the answer to their problem was to put in more areas to offer dinners, breakfasts, all the stuff that you're talking about. And they said that became a magnet, and they doubled their homeless population.
So
You ain't getting a magnet here, I'll tell you
they
that.
were
People don't want to
offering-
come here for that.
Because they were offering those kinds of services.
So I absolutely want to touch on that. Something that, because that is a concern that we hear a lot, is that providing services will draw people to them. I will say that as our services have expanded, we have not seen a large increase in population coming in. We actually, in our latest PIT count, the average length that somebody has lived in Lake County who participated in our point-in-time count this year was 17 years. So these aren't people who are coming in just to get the services, even though we have expanded services compared to places like Mendocino County, who are also working on expanding services, but we are honestly leaps and bounds ahead in certain things. So I definitely understand the concern of people being drawn, but what we have seen statistically is that it's not so far been a huge concern, because even as we've expanded those, our I think, is it 18 years or 17 years? I was going to say it actually went up. Last year was 17 years was the average. 18 years is the average this year for the 2025 PIT count. Even as we have done things like expanding mobile crisis and expanding housing services. So while I can't say that that will never happen, of course there are going to be individuals who are going to seek whatever services they can. They'll travel. But by and far, the vast majority are people who have lived in Lake County for the majority of their lives, who have graduated our high schools, who grew up with me or with, students around us and things like that.
So, and I would like to point out that for a few years, we were providing like a breakfast and a lunch, a nice hot cooked meal at our peer support centers, especially in the Oaks and Lakeport, due to not having like an actual licensed kitchen at either of those centers. We had to stop providing hot meals. And our attendance went down for a brief moment, but we're right back up to where we were. And we're still not providing meals. So it didn't really have the impact that we all thought it was going to have. Like, they weren't just coming in for the meals. They're coming in for the socialization. They're coming in for support. They're coming in for resources. We're a huge linkage for our unhoused, our unserved, and our underserved populations to get the services that they need. So I can't speak for LA County or Santa Monica, but I can speak for Lake County, that while the food does draw people in, there's other things that draw them in as well.
It also, sorry, I heard you start, Scott, but I want to say we have kind of a natural barrier with the layout of our county that makes a big difference. We do not have the public transportation that gets individuals up into Lake County super easy. So I think that is something that has been a big impact on not having individuals, like we don't see large swaths of folks who are not from Lake County coming up here.
I was going to say exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Mendocino County did see an increase when they started offering services because they're on the 101 corridor. And being over there all the time, I see people saying, hey, I'm going to Oregon, or I'm going to the Bay Area, and they're stuck, We don't have that here because we're not on that corridor. And so we do have some natural isolation. And the truth is, the people that we see, like you said, are folks from here. I mean, even in behavioral health and all the years I've been there, I can only remember just a few times where someone says, yeah, I moved here because it was cheaper to live here, But even then, most people that we're talking that are homeless, they don't have the funds to move, and that's why they tend to stay where they're from. And so it's I think it's.
I'd like to address also what Mountain said was, it's a neighbor, and then Rick said, well, you should have been here at the last meeting because we had quite a few businesses here that had anecdotes, were talking about it, things that were happening. And hence why we went after, it was suggested we reach out to behavioral health and all of that. But one of the big industries that we try to promote, and certainly Kelseyville is a real activator for our tourism, because people love to come to this little small town. We have all these, we have festivals that bring in thousands of people, and they're not all locals. And I don't have those stats, but they don't have a chance to know these people. So they are going to profile. They're going to drive up to that park and say, my kids, do not go into that park. They don't have the luxury of meeting them and getting to build a relationship with them and all of that. So there is a perception there. And it is a small park, so a takeover is not that difficult. It sounds like it's something that, to me, it sounds like it's only housing. And also, we tried, what was his name? Senator, I'm losing my mind. He and I worked on a thing down in Southern California where we were going to try to put a bill together where we could treat homeless as a disability. That way you could keep them longer, and you could maybe have a chance to treat some of the problems. Whereas now you can pull them in, but you got to kick them out in 72 hours.
That's great.
So
just real quick on like the festivals. So I know that not all the people that are hanging out in the park would be wanting to do this, but have you thought about including them, like hiring them to keep the streets clean, to like participate in some way, shape, or form? Because I'm sure most of them would want to be a part of.
Well, that's a good topic. I'm sure Helen might think about that with the KBA and.
Well, I'm thinking through this whole conversation has been that. Through this whole conversation has been some sort of engagement and some sort of employment. How can we talk to people about housing that don't have any income? Right. So, and when you feed that fire, that give them a little bit of a job, a little bit of something, that feeds something else in them and build. Sure, and so yeah, it's kind of pretty big win-win when you think about it.
So, I know you guys have another presentation.
Yep. fact, it's about housing.
So I've been,
We do.
I'm just going to share a little personal history with you guys. I have been in recovery for 30 years, and it has been a long, fruitful road. I was homeless on the streets of Sonoma County for 5 years. And so that's one reason why this is so important for me, is because I know it's possible. If somebody had not given me a chance, I was on welfare when I got clean, pregnant. A lady who owned Custard's Last Stand in Middletown helped me get into a house. She hired me to work there, and she sold me her old car for like $200. If she had not believed in me, I don't know that I would have gone to school and been as motivated. But she really empowered me, and she made me believe that I could change. And so now I'm sharing that with you guys because it is possible. If you guys had met me 33 years ago, a totally different person. So, you know, that's, I love to hear you talking like that because that's so important to empower.
What if, you know, I like this idea of building a relationship. What if, is there any way behavioral health or Mountain, if somebody could put together these guys at a specific time and maybe we could come over and actually engage with them? We
Thursdays.
could even have a little barbecue and talk to them about them. What?
Yeah.
We do this every week. Go ahead, Linda.
Every Thursday, the shower trailer comes, and we do have a hot meal for them. Usually we serve at about 11. They show up at 8 because they're hungry. So I have been giving them breakfast. I save all the leftovers and put them in little containers and set them out for them at night. But the one thing that I know with them is, first of all, they have no money. So whenever they need to get somewhere, there's no bus passes. I try to get as many as I can. On my phone, I have 1 probation officer and 3 parole officers because they don't have any way to find out when their court dates are. They don't have a calendar. They don't even know what day it is sometimes. And I drive by the park almost every night when I go by, make sure that I call it my peeps, are okay. And so they know to come to me during the week if they're wet and dirty and
Yeah, that's
a pit count to them is like Christmas. It is a
That-
Christmas to them.
That's once a year, and they love that, and they love when we have stuff in our van to give them out. But to answer your question on that, Thursday's a great day. They all come to that location. You know, I invited the city council of Lakeport to come down to our center, and I invite you guys to come down on Thursday and do that. Now, you're not going to be able to help them all, but I'll tell you, there are specific people that I can point out to you that would be great for a peer support role model type thing, that are in the community, that are clean, that are homeless, that if you gave them an opportunity to step up and make them, to hold their friends accountable, and then maybe give them a treat, like, look, if the park doesn't get this many calls, okay, we're going to give you a free dinner at the Saw Shop. I'm just, sorry, Saw Shop people, I don't mean to throw you guys under the bus. It was the only thing that came to my mind. But the point is that there are some that will not work with you, but there are some that are dying to work with you. They are so grateful when we sit down to talk to them on a one-on-one and not just throw them stuff or not just tell them, hey, get out of the park. You know, because I've heard stories where the pear growers come in and tell certain guys that they know, if you're drunk on this park, you can't be drunk here today because of the festival, stuff like that. But there's other ways to treat the people. And so all I'm saying is this: you guys have a problem. There is a solution, and it could be worked out. It really can. Can behavioral health fix it? We have some ideas, and we're down here, the church is down here, but really, I think it takes the community, and I think it takes the community, and if the community is ignorant on how to talk to these people, I'm sure Scott knows a lot of people that can train and help and bring other peer supporters, excuse me, to help out in this problem. Really, compared to LA, compared to San Francisco, compared to Oakland, they can't fix their problem. It's overwhelming. It's kind of like all those little gnats out there. There's just so many of them. But Kelseyville, we can fix this problem here. We really can if we get everybody together. That's my personal opinion.
Well, I like that.
Go, Kelseyville.
Okay, so I guess we leave it on Helen, maybe the KBA can come up with a plan, or we just say meet on Thursday, or?
But-
I think KBA, I think that there would be great, like, how about that cleanup after Fair Festival the other day?
Yeah.
And
Right.
Start thinking of some tasks in the
Yeah.
community, we brought a whole
So-
freaking.
Sounds like we need like a little community focus group, including KBA, to work this issue and stick with it, and
Well, and I think that what I believe you. My apologies. I think that what we really benefit from here tonight is just to look at the other side. I think it's been easy to be business people and be mad about this, and, rightfully so. I know that I was out in the parking lot coming into the pub for Sunday afternoon music, or later in the evening, I guess, and there was for lack of a better term, there was a crazy walking about with his just baggage and all of his stuff on him, just literally shouting and cursing and clearly just angry as hell. And it was the first time I have ever in 15 years living in Kelseyville been scared. I got inside that building as fast as I could. I was really, really, so, that's kind of what we've been looking at, and that's how we've been feeling, and that's what we've been thinking. To hear you, bring that more personal side to it, obviously they're not all that guy. And,
Right.
The number she told you for a crisis, that's what crisis is for, to deal with that.
well, that's what I was thinking, who in the heck do we call to do something about this guy? Because he was just wandering by, he didn't even, I saw him at one end of town, and then he was disappeared into thin air. I don't believe that he's familiar, I don't.
No, I know.
Okay, well, so,
we-
yeah.
The thing is with that, is that when they call the sheriffs, they pick them up, they take them in, they give them a TV dinner, clean clothes, and let them out the next morning. Nothing has happened other than they got what they wanted. They got to eat, they got a bed, and they got a shower. And then we let them out the next day. And so with behavioral health, being able to be called, and this is really quick. My granddaughter is mentally disturbed or whatever. And in Arizona, she carries a card. She's CMI, certified mentally ill. If she does anything wrong, she immediately is taken to a mental hospital or a mental place. I know we don't have that here, but it keeps her from being arrested, and it's really personal to me. And so to help these people, that some of them are mentally, a lot of them are mentally, and if we can get someone to help them, other than putting them in jail so they could have a meal and a shower.
I just want to say something real quick about the police department, about the sheriff. I wish I was here with the sheriff for here. When it comes to like places like Lakeport, they have one of us that from behavioral health as a liaison, so we ride around with the police. If there's a thing called, we are the first ones to talk to them before the police. Unfortunately, Kelseyville does not have a police department. You use the sheriff's department. And that's the biggest complaint that when you talk to the people out here is the sheriffs come in gunning. They don't come in and ask their problem. They just, there's a problem, boom. That's why I'm once again am a big fan of a liaison. And because a lot of your problems are going to be stopped that way. So, anyhow,
So I just wanted, I'm sorry.
we're really burning through our time here.
I'm sorry.
and
Thank you.
I think this is a super important issue that we need to revisit, and I don't know how the panel feels about this, but do we want to?
And my staff and I are more than willing to come in
I think we
and
could do-
help facilitate conversations.
We still have a housing discussion.
Can I make one suggestion? I think this is a really great conversation. I think there's potential for the KBA and this group to maybe have a working committee that interacts regularly with behavioral health to, try and have some of these deeper conversations and build these relationships. And that's why we have this group, so that you have access to county staff all the time. So if that's something that you want to do, we're always going to be available for that.
That was what I was going to end on, and I'm going to give you my business card.
I agree, but I also think that committee should give us a progress report. So once we can get something going and kind of get a sense that, hey, we're actually doing something, I think would be great too.
So you, as this council, could put it on an agenda to create this committee.
Yeah.
So it's formalized, appoint people to serve on it, have your liaison with KBA. You could do a lot, but that would be for you the next formal step.
And that includes all of you guys on Zoom. If anybody wants to be involved, let us know.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes, please.
absolutely.
Yes, please.
You may approach.
So,
Yeah, I know, yeah. I will say, guys, if you had, Scott said I think you said you listened to it, but Mountain and these other guys, if they listened to last month's meeting, it's beginning to come to a head a little bit. And if we don't come up with a plan and we don't see some sort of way to make that plan happen, probably what will happen, and based on what Supervisor Pyska said, is, we'll look at alternatives, and one of them being, the top one being, make it an EV parking area for Kelseyville. So,
Well, and a lot of times, it's got to come to a head before it can start to change, too.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And that's, I think you guys gave us some great ideas and some good things to start working with. The
Yeah.
committee's a good start.
well, thank you, Environmental Health,
Thank
for
you for
being
your
here.
time.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Lisa will have a great presentation. She will also be kind of great following up with this. I've heard it
Lisa-
before, and it's awesome.
Lisa Judd is here from, she's the Deputy County Administrator, Office for Housing. And you're going to talk about housing action and implementation plan.
Good evening.
Oh, is that your way, your dig? Okay, I got you.
Oh.
Yeah, oh.
Just put it back in.
Oh, put it back in? All right.
You get the dead mic.
Oh, you're talking about us. Oh, okay. I thought you were trying to get rid of my mic. I know what you're trying to do, Thomas.
Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening. I have quite a bit of content to go over, but I'll keep it as brief as I can. We only have about, I think, 10 minutes. And I want to first say I'm Lisa Judd. I'm Deputy County Administrative Officer for Housing. And about May of 2024, we did a kickoff meeting for the Housing Action and Implementation Plan. And that effort took us a little over a year. We worked with PlaceWorks Consultant. We worked very closely with the Community Development Department, Director Turner, and you met Shannon earlier, Deputy Community Development Director Administration, and she worked very closely with us as well. This is a very comprehensive housing plan, a playbook, if you will, with strategies to address, as we heard, the many aspects of housing that we need to address in this county. We call it the HAPE because Housing Action and Implementation Plan is a mouthful for me to say repeatedly. And the HAPE really is a comprehensive manual that was worked with the Clear Lake, Lakeport, the entire county. We have addressed all of the spectrum of housing, not just one element. And as you can see in our last discussion, just the homeless element itself is a huge thing to tackle. So I appreciate all of you listening to the presentation, and I would like to at first say, because we are short on time, that if you go to the County of Lake administration page, on the left-hand side, there's a housing link there, and you can go to the Housing Action and Implementation Plan there. It is a fairly lengthy document. It's a little over 400 pages. So there's a lot of content there. Really, the appendices kind of go over, we did a lot of community engagement. We did tribal engagement. We had engagement with the COC, with developers, with real estate professionals. We went to all the LAPAC meetings. We worked with the 2050 team, and so we had a cohesive effort in order to come up with the strategies and goals in the Housing Action and Implementation Plan. So with that, I have a lengthy presentation, so I'm trying to figure out how to make that a condensed version in the time that we have. And I'm a morning person. And
Lisa,
yes.
in fairness to you, would you be willing to come back in November and give us a more thorough overview? And we could maybe just go with your, brief summary, and then...
Yeah, of course, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, of course.
Because we didn't anticipate going as long as we did tonight.
We should have.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we should have.
It was a very
It's a
interesting
big-
conversation, all of it, to be
Yeah.
a part of. So I'm very happy to be here. And
Yeah.
I would encourage maybe you in the meantime to look at that link.
Okay.
There's not only that link to that document, and it kind of goes over the goals and strategies. I guess a couple of things I wanted to highlight is that the HAPE is a strategy. Everything in that comprehensive manual may or may not be utilized, but it gives us a playbook of things that we can utilize when the opportunity arises. It allows us to prioritize, and one of the wonderful things about the HAPE is that it is not meant to be something that is on a shelf collecting dust. It's supposed to change over time, so that we can really make it meaningful in a way that our community wants. And in that, and I'll go over it in November, but the community engagement was a huge piece for us. We really listened to the community and what the community wanted to make some of those goals and strategies in the HAPE. It is a tough feat to tackle. Housing in California or in the nation is difficult right now, but I really believe that having these things in place will position us so that when those opportunities do arrive, that we can move forward and make some progress. And the other thing with the HAPE I just wanted to mention as well is there's an interactive web map. There's on that same link, if you go to the administration page for the County of Lake, an interactive web map. You can take a look at that. That can help kind of refine different places for possible housing. And then there's a sites analysis as well. So I think I'll leave it at that, and then I'll come back in November and give you kind of a full, more robust presentation for the HAPE.
So this is the County of Lake website, and then search HAPE?
Administration,
Go to administration?
and then there's a housing
Got it.
on the left-hand side. Now, we are in process for, and I think Ben Rickelman is also going to be presenting for economics. We're working on economics and housing web pages. So those will be coming up in the near future, and we'll be sure and let you know about those as well.
Okay. How much time would be something you'd like to see in November? A half hour, or 20 minutes?
Probably about 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, maybe.
20 to 30.
When you've done these presentations at other places, has there been a lot of Q&A, like the homeless? Is this something that we should maybe carve out more time for?
You're absolutely right, because that did happen. So my presentation's one thing, and then there's a lot of questions, and it did run over quite a bit in my previous.
Will you need audio, video support too?
I do have a PowerPoint presentation, so if you'd like that, I think that's helpful.
Yeah, let's do
and I'd
that.
be more than happy to do that. I have
So next month on the agenda, so we'll, move you to next month's agenda, and this way you can give the full presentation, dedicate more time, obviously. And then we also have Ben Rickelman to do the economic development plan, to present the economic development plan, so we already have those two things next month.
Great.
So-
That's all we need, then, right? Probably just those.
Probably,
Eat up the
yes.
whole-
Sharon?
Oh, just a comment. I've had the privilege of seeing Lisa's presentation. It's really excellent, and it's very timely because we are in the process, not the whole county, but we are in the process of doing our plan and redoing it and having this information as an overlay when we're looking at any changes or just looking at understanding what some of the needs are. This is very timely to have this, and it's really important to see her PowerPoint because it's really good and it helps to, you know, visuals are always helpful because it's like a 450-page document, which, you know, you could read in chapters. There are no pictures, but
Maybe we should do it
there
this
are
way.
charts. Anyway, so I think it's a good idea to give her more time so that you can absorb it, do a little of your homework beforehand, and then you have some good questions for her. So I appreciate her coming.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
So Sharon has, I guess, shared that link with me at info@visitkelseyville, so I can share it with all of my members. If anyone in the room wants, I guess you all have the same opportunity to.
You can get it off the website, but I just had it, I'm sure.
Oh, okay. So
I could
it's the
email
same
you the
thing that
link
you're
as well.
talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
Good.
well, I think that concludes our meeting for tonight. You can revisit the meeting by going to the YouTube channel that we have. We've recorded everything tonight, so if you want to revisit what we just talked about. Good meeting, very important issues, and I think we're going to carry on with what we just heard today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Sharon. Want to meet over at Pioneer Park? Maybe we meet at Pioneer Park. When this place is under construction.